On the 11th of November, Poland celebrated the 100th anniversary of its reappearance on the map of Europe. On that day, we held a march. Many in foreign media outlets have criticized it, with some strong words used to label those who attended. Noted political scientist Francis Fukuyama labelled the march fascist. Andrew Rettman for the EU Observer called it neo-Nazi. Al Jazeera described it as homophobic and white supremacist, and the BBC labelled it as far-right. The most recurring epithet to describe the march was the word nationalist. I don't want to defend the march from these allegations, as they are not worthy of much consideration. I would rather take the time to explain why 250,000 Poles chose to attend the Independence Day rally. Why are Poles so fiercely proud and so attached both to their country and their nation? Poland has an incredibly difficult and painful history. Our country was wiped off the face of Europe twice. When Poland was partitioned for 123 years, the Polish nation survived without a state, by clinging on to national identity, to our shared ancestors, to our culture. That extreme attachment to our nationhood is why we survived and have a country to speak of today. There is indeed a certain radicalism to Polish patriotism, but how can we not be radical when our 1,000 years of Polish history represents some 200 wars and over a dozen national uprisings to overthrow those who are occupying our country? The experience of occupation is still very recent. The last of the Russian troops left our country in 1993, barely 25 years ago. The 100 years of our rebirth on the map of Europe have also been marked by great tragedy. The horrors of Nazi German occupation and the brutality of communism have left deep wounds, and the pain of those experiences has rippled on even to my own generation. The anniversary of our country reappearing on the map of Europe is a hugely important day for us. How can we not be proud that our forefathers maintained our nation without a state and then withstood the two great totalitarianisms of the 20th century? How can we not be grateful for this gift of independence and nationhood that our ancestors bequeathed us? The 11th of November is a day to celebrate freedom, but also to reflect upon the great price paid by our forefathers in order for us to be free and independent today. Poland has been preparing for this anniversary for the past few months. Hundreds of events have been hosted to celebrate this day, and yet the foreign media has chosen to report primarily on the Independence Day march. The march is in a sense a culmination of the celebrations. It is a chance for tens of thousands of Poles to march together in a sea of red and white flags. It is a chance to feel the unity of nationhood, that very same one that helped us survive as a stateless nation. Yes, we chant, we sing, some of us light flares and we shout slogans. Yes, it is primal, collectivist, and to those who do not know our history, it might be hard to comprehend. This year we marched behind the unofficial motto of Poland: God, honor, and fatherland. These words, these values represented by those words, and the heavy sacrifice of our forefathers for those values is why today Poland exists and is free. Those were the values of those who fought the great powers that partitioned our country, those who fought the Bolsheviks, those who fought the Nazi Germans, and those who battled the communists. These were the last words of many resistance fighters faced with execution, and those are our values today. That is why we march. Because Poland exists, despite great, almost insurmountable odds. Because we understand what it is like to live without a country. We understand how hard and costly it is to regain a country. We understand that freedom costs. It costs dearly, and we must all do our part to preserve it. And that is why we shall keep marching, no matter how you report on us. That is the story we want you, the foreign press, to report. The story of Poland and its great rebirth, its great and tragic moments, and its return to the map 100 years ago. Because it is a beautiful story, and one that we Poles are incredibly proud of, and one we celebrate on the 11th of November. Yes, that is the story that we want to share with you all, that Poland is not yet lost. I'll leave you to reflect upon that. Long live Poland. Niech żyje Polska.